All right, everyone. Well, today we're excited to have Scott Lesak join us, and so Scott has been kind enough to join us here, and he's with Castle Rocks Landscape Company and Peak Peer Groups as well, and looking forward to kind of diving into his journey as a business owner, within the green industry, things he's learned, and also offers some great services and support for companies as well. So looking forward to kind of get into that. But you know, thank you for joining us, Scott.
Thanks for having me, Joe and Carla. I really appreciate it. Excited to be here, and well done on pronouncing the last name correctly. I'm impressed.
We try.
Yeah.
And, I guess first off, Scott, how did you decide to first get into the green industry?
Well, I'll give you the shorter version of it. I started as a teenager, like a lot of us do, but I did not start mowing neighbor grasses. I started as a hardscaper when I was 14. Started out cutting a couple shrubs down and getting paid for that, and then putting rock borders around beds, going out to cornfields and picking up field stone in the front of Kubota tractor and putting those field stones around people's flower beds. So that was where Castle Rocks came from, and it was originally Castle Rocks Rockscapes because that was all we did. And by the time I was 16, started seeing myself making some, at the time, real money. I made about $30,000 a year. I was 16 and realized, hey, there's a future here. Maybe I can do something. And around that time, had a conversation with my dad and expressed interest. And he said, "Yeah, let's do it together. Let's give it a shot, see what happens." So we did, and really started to ramp up and became ICPI certified by the time I was 18, and we were doing a whole bunch of paver work and everything. So it was really kind of a cool beginning that my dad gave me some financial background, and at the beginning was really helping in the field as well. And I decided my senior year of high school that I was either going to Penn State for landscape contracting or I wasn't going to go to college, but either one, it was Castle Rocks was in my future. I kind of had committed at that point. And in hindsight, luckily I got into Penn State, so I got a really good education behind what we're doing. I don't think I'd be even close to where I am in my career today if I didn't have that. So went to Penn State, landscape contracting, focus on design build, and got a minor in arboriculture. That was the next 5 years and takes us to 2011. I graduated in the fall of 2010, and 2011 we established Castle Rocks Landscape Company, the LLC we're still operating under today. Cutting a couple shrubs down and getting paid for that, and then putting got an echo there one. Anyway, and at that point, we hired on our first couple real full-time employees that we had. And for a couple years, we were running a very high-end residential design build company. I was doing all the work, doing absolutely everything, selling, designing, estimating, all of it. The true entrepreneurial nightmare that's not actually entrepreneur. It's the people that think, we can run a business. And started realizing how much I had to learn. And through that time, I was a firefighter at the same time, started in the fire department at an early age, worked at several different volunteer and combination departments. So got paid for what I did. Sometimes was volunteering my time, other times, and had some really good experiences with that. And through that time period, I started having some PTSD from some nasty stuff I saw, and started drinking a lot, and just had some personal struggles I was going through. And got to a point that the drinking really got out of control, and I had to make some changes in order to manage my life. I had to manage some of the actions I was taking, and a whole lot more to this story than this, but we'd only have a half hour instead of 3 days, so we'll keep it short. 2018, I decided to stop drinking. I decided to get sober and not drink anymore, refocus my life. That same year, I wound up herniating 2 discs in my back. And it was at that time I had known about setting up systems and processes in the business and really getting it rolling. And, my alcohol problem was getting in my way of doing that. So the combination of sobriety and being forced out of the field with an injury really started to ramp up the company. So that year, 2018, was one of the worst years we had financially. Obviously, with my personal struggles, we did 287,000 in revenue, and we've built to the point over the past 5 years that this year we're going to be coming in north of 3 million in a 5-year period, and we're speeding up. We're not slowing down. So I could keep going and going, and we in that same period in the past 5 years, we've made a transition from strictly high-end residential design build to more of a facilities management company. We do large-scale facility landscape maintenance, snow and ice management, and that's kind of the direction of a company for the future. We have our second location planned and in the works for 2025, and we're working on that right now and have all the stuff in place to just be ready to launch that. We're going to be starting efforts to sell in the market that we're going to be moving into beginning next year, 2024. So,
Wow.
Wow, that's an impressive background for sure. And looks like you've seen the ins and outs of business, but also kind of got through some things on your personal end, but you're able to move past that and build your business. And so that's great. And well, some of the things that we hear often is some of the CRMs that people are using when they first start out their business, maybe when you were back in high school or something, all the way to now where you have a big established business. How has that changed, and what did you start off with what you're using now? I'm sure there's a big difference.
absolutely. I mean, what I started out with was a yellow legal pad, so that was the original CRM, and that lasted a long time. I personally am not a huge tech person, and I really liked where we could go with the pen and paper. And by the time we hit about 800,000 in revenue and had a second salesperson working and everything, it started to really quickly become unmanageable. So it was around that time frame we decided to start exploring some of the platforms, not just for CRM, but to manage the entire business. And we went through, we looked through a bunch of them. We looked at LMN, we looked at Service Autopilot, we looked at a couple of the others, but we really got down to the three that we compared were LMN, Service Autopilot, and Aspire. And that was the end of the season 2019 that we did that, and we decided to go with Aspire and implement Aspire that year. We started in the fall. One of the best decisions we ever made. It transformed the way we managed, the way we job costed. Our job costing before was extremely detailed and all pen and paper, and we had stacks of paper this high with great information that nobody ever quantified, and we never did anything with the data. So I mean, it was might as well not have been doing it. And getting Aspire into place, the reason we decided on Aspire was really the reporting function, to see our numbers. I've always been definitely not an accountant and not on your level with accounting, but I'm a financial guy. I'm an investor. I do tons of investing. I understand money. I understand how to get a return on my investments, and I understand how to make smart decisions on where to spend money. And the basis of that is 100% data analysis. You can't make educated decisions without that data analysis. And of the three platforms we compared, Aspire by far had the best data analysis and the best job costing functions for us. So we decided to go that route.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I do like Aspire because of the reporting and analysis aspect. It definitely could do some cool things, and it's dynamic, and no, it's got some good functionality. Of course, we have to put in the work to be able to see all of those lovely reports in place, because one thing is it being able to do that, but another thing is like, okay, could we fully implement this and get the value out of Aspire that we're paying for, right? So I think kind of, can you take us through like your journey with Aspire? Because we have so many business owners that just struggle with the implementation stage of Aspire. It requires a lot of administrative work that, first of all, a lot of business owners don't have the time to put into that. And also, maybe they weren't as involved in administrative aspects of their business and accounting to be able to even put that together, right? Or so how were you able to kind of implement that and keep that maintained moving forward?
That's an awesome question. The biggest thing with any of the platforms. I'm going to talk about Aspire specifically because that's what I know, but this goes for any of them. You get what you put into them out of them, and you get what you put into them at the beginning out of them. Standardization, that word should just be playing over and over again in your head as you're scaling the company, as you're scaling where you're headed. Make everything standardized, so you're doing it not the same way, but exactly the same way every single time, every single job, every single person. Obviously, we're in a heavily varying industry, that one patio is not the same as the next patio, one lawn to cut is not the same as the next, and so I'm not talking on that level, but I'm talking the skeleton of the way you operate your business needs to be exactly the same and given your clients the exact same way. So we've had a concept since before we went in with Aspire of scaling first and growing second. So we want to scale the company to where we're growing instead of growing and saying, oh no, where do we go from here? We don't know how to manage this. We don't make moves unless we know exactly how it's going to wind up playing out. And then we realize when we get there, it plays out about 75% that way. And we still have to improvise 25%, but it's a lot closer than just jumping off the cliff and really going forward. That's exactly what we did with Aspire. We got a consultant involved immediately. I worked with Dave Gallagher from Spiritus Business Advisors. Awesome guy. Known him for years. Knew him when he was at Landopt. His dad actually graduated high school with my dad, completely coincidentally. We didn't. That was not how we met. But I was working with him prior to going with Aspire, and he kind of helped us through the decision-making process. And once it came to implementation, he was part of all of our implementation calls, helping us build some of our processes and really scaling out the business at that point in time. And I would recommend every single person that's implementing Aspire hire somebody third party as well with that. And I highly recommend Dave, but there are definitely other people out there that do it. And what that does for you is you get an interpreter. It's like speaking a different language in Aspire, learning the opportunity here and the work tickets here and the change orders, all that type of stuff that sounds pretty similar, but when you're really in the system, you got to know exactly what it is. You got to know what's the difference between an opportunity and an opportunity template, and setting up your properties versus your contacts. There's just so much stuff, and having somebody there to slow down and speed up at the same time. I know that's an oxymoron, but that's truly what Dave did. He was able to slow down what the implementation was doing from the Aspire side and catapult it forward with the right information that we needed. So we went live and we were off to the races. We were ready to run that. And I know from companies I work with right now, a lot of people that just come out of the implementation from Aspire are completely lost, not ready to run their businesses on Aspire yet. And we didn't have that experience solely because of Dave.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's great. I think that's great advice, is getting a consultant. Accounting is its own language,
Yep.
Us accountants, we know it. And in essence, Aspire is an accounting system. It's doing everything plus some, even some of the sales process and stuff like that. So, but on top of that, you put a different software on there, you mix accounting and into it, and I can see why a consultant is definitely necessary up front, right, to get your business going. And I really liked how you said you have to scale first.
Yes.
Before you grow. I really like that, because it's true, right? And you relieve a lot of the headaches, and that's really how I think in also my personal life too. I'm like, let's lay out the roadmap first, and then we'll get there close enough where it'll be good. But I mean, and I think I'm going to ask you a question about just Aspire, and the 47 steps it takes to close out your month and your financials is like.
No, I don't actually. I've never done it once, but yes, I do.
Oh, geez. Then you're lucky. But
no, I do know more than that statement. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I know it's crazy, but and I think I know the answer already, but I just want to pick your brain about it. There is the purchase receipts, your accounts payable stuff. There's the AR, the invoicing. There's the actual month-end close, and then you have your work ticket section. Now, I would say, my question for you is like, which one of those areas within Aspire take up the most time for a business, do you think?
So I view Aspire as having, probably at the size we are now, eliminating a position that we never had to hire, because there is some legwork that you have to do. And let's rewind a little bit here and just kind of go into Aspire is direct cost only. and you carry anything over for your depreciation schedules and anything like that into a separate accounting software. So understanding the difference between your direct and your indirect expenses is crucial with it, and your month end deals with your direct expenses only. And you're right, that spreadsheet has 52 items on it for closing out the month in Aspire. However, if you have your operations team trained properly to be keeping up with your inventories every single day and keeping up with closing work tickets and balancing out your hours and any of the issues on a literally daily basis, your month end process is really only about 7 tasks instead of all 52 of those, because you can do them on a daily basis. And you can take 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day to do certain things, or you can spend 3 days at the end of the month to play catch up and try and rack your brain. So the way we operate is proactive in every single thing we do. We don't like to be reactive. And the second we find ourselves in a reactive state, we try to pinpoint what went wrong that we can make sure we're proactive there in the future. And this is one of those areas. The month end is 100% definitely daunting if you're looking at it from that 52 task list. But if you're keeping up with it on a daily basis, you have the right processes in place that your teams are following, and your operations manager, I mean, the operations manager is a very crucial role for the work tickets, for the inventories. Office manager, you know, depending on how you're structured, can enter your receipts or have somebody else. I mean, right now we have a guy that's out on workers' comp with a shoulder injury entering our receipts in Aspire for us, because we can get him some hours for that. And that's just one way to just keep certain people busy. And it's not overwhelming at all. The actual accounting portion of it, we have a controller in place who takes care of all that stuff at the very end of the month. It takes them about 4 hours a month. We're done by the 5th of the month, the following month, every single month.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't, with our businesses that we work with, I feel that the accounts payable, AR side of things and the actual month end close is just quick, right?
Yep.
It's something that's kept up with every day, or on a weekly or monthly basis. But what holds them up the most is they don't have that piece, Scott, that you mentioned, the trained operations team where they're going in, keeping up with the work tickets every day. It's like they're not doing that. They're waiting until the end of the month, and everything is like you can't decipher anything within Aspire and all the data that's in there. So having your operations team trained so that they can go in there daily, I think that's the biggest takeaway from what I heard on your end. Now, Aspire gives you a spreadsheet, right?
Yep.
Would you have your operations team like update that spreadsheet? Did you have them do you have them leave notes in Aspire or on a separate software? How do you know that they did their daily task?
So at the very beginning, we logged it on the spreadsheet and figured it out. And we actually built it to the point that it is just completely rock solidly built into our processes. It's part of what you do as your job every day. So we don't even need a checklist associated with it anymore. It's in the process. If we have somebody else that we're hiring, we will train them on that process. It's written down. But once you get, a month into an operations manager position in our company, you'll know the ins and outs just from your daily task that the operations manager is doing to help with the month end without even realizing that you're helping close a month with those tasks that are in it. So that's one of the standardization things that we put in place to just make sure everything is buttoned up throughout the processes. That's why we put systems in place anyway. You have the system, which is Aspire to operate, processes, which are the manuals of telling you how to use the system. That's essentially to simplify what systems and processes are. That in a nutshell, that's it.
It's true. It's true. And
Scott, so what do you use any other softwares? Like what does your tech stack look like?
Source tech, we use, besides your standard Google Docs and Microsoft Word and all that type of stuff, we have QuickBooks is our accounting software. QuickBooks Online sync directly in for the month-end processes. And then we have a CRM that we use for our sales portion for prospecting and new sales. And we use a platform called Nutshell, which is absolutely awesome, far more robust than anything that within Aspire. We've built out maps that pin where our sites are. We've built out different lists, different geographic areas. It's giving us the market analysis that we need for moving into location 2, 3, 4, and 5, which are coming up really quick. And, it just is next level. So that's on the prospecting side. That is on the, let's get a conversation with these people and let's get reminded that we need to reach out to these people if we didn't have that conversation side of it. And as soon as the conversation happens and it turns into an actual opportunity rather than just a prospect, then we kick it over to Aspire and we enter all the information in Aspire and we manage our entire bid process through Aspire from there. So really that's it. It's those three platforms. If the prospecting pre-sale portion of Aspire CRM was more robust, we'd only have the two of Aspire and QuickBooks.
Wow. No, that's great. And so, nutshell, that's the first time I heard that, but it sounds like a
Look it
pretty
up.
robust system.
It's pretty cool, man. It's really, our VP of business development discovered it probably about 6-8 months ago. And he went off to the races with it, set it up. I don't know that much about it, but I know it works and I know it can show me the data I want to see when I want to see it. So that it's absolutely awesome.
Very nice. And, systems, technology, softwares, all great stuff, right? But, going from a business, couple 100,000 revenue up to 3 million revenue, there's other advancements there, right? So I guess looking at leadership and, culture within your company, leading people, all of that, if you can just kind of let us into kind of your approach to that, and, maybe some things that you've learned and even maybe advice that you have for some of the listeners.
Well, point blank, short version, that is the superpower. That's the secret. It's your people. Businesses don't grow. I mean, we create businesses. We create these fictitious entities for tax sheltering and liability sheltering and everything like that. How can that grow? It's on paper. It's created on paper. The business doesn't grow. People within it do. So that's our job, to make sure that we are getting the people to grow and having them continue to move forward. And that in itself is an art. Anybody that can't get people motivated, or, my favorite one as of late is there's no labor out there. There's labor everywhere. We've had a waiting list for 3 years. Through all this labor shortage that everybody else is talking about, we've had a list of people that want to work for us that we can make a phone call and they'll come over and work for us. But what comes with that is starting rates at $18 an hour. We pay 100% of the health insurance for our frontline people. And we have a simple IRA in place that we are contributing 3% match to building the retirement. Then we have me in place as a true coach that does things for outside of our business as well. And we are able to coach people financially and say, hey, here's what you should be doing with your retirement. Here's things you're making $18 an hour. That's a livable wage. Absolutely. Let's budget that a little bit. And if you can save $100 a month, that's better than saving nothing. But cash is trash. So what are we doing with that savings? We want to put it somewhere that it's appreciating instead of staying the same value. We give all those resources, and that's just scratching the surface. We're a team. We are truly a team of people that build. Our mission statement is we're a group of like-minded individuals passionate about bettering ourselves and our industry alike. Simply, we create peace of mind. So every action we take is aimed around bettering ourselves, bettering our industry, and creating peace of mind for everybody involved. With that, our people are first. Our people are number one ahead of anybody else, and that is our employees, families, and our vendors fall into that category. Our clients are number two, and our profits are number three. As long as we take care of them in that order, the preceding one takes care of the succeeding one every single time. And that's the way we operate. And our people know that. And we have their backs, and they have our backs in return. And it's a tight-knit group. You have to earn a place on our team. We hire you, you're not on the team yet. You got to earn that place. And if the guys don't like you, you're going to get pushed out really fast. And we have structured methods and in the processes and in the systems to make sure that's happening. So it's just, this conversation could go on for 3 days to really tap into it, but that's the gist of it.
That's awesome. And having that great culture within the company, I would imagine with that comes, your employees referring other, job candidates to kind of, come and join the company. But as for being able to put that in a job description or, reach out to candidates, what is the way that, you kind of, make someone out there interested? Or I guess you may not even have to worry about that because having a wait list. But I guess when it comes to recruiting, what kind of recommendations would you have for people that are maybe struggling on that side?
Paint a very clear picture. That's what it comes down to. What is the expectation of the employee coming in to have? We have a system in place called the Leaders Ladder, and it is from $18 to $20 an hour, 25-cent increments for your raises, the training you have to go through, what is entailed in that training. You see that before you even come in for the interview. Here's how our company operates. And that goes twofold. It gives them a clear picture of where they can go, but it also says, wow, these guys are put together. They know what they're doing. They have it together. They mean business. That right there screens out 50% of the people, because a lot of people working in this industry, unfortunately, are just looking for a paycheck or cash at the end of the day. That's not our ideal employee. You're not getting hired with our company if that's what your motive is. So those people read right through it. Another thing is you got to send us a resume. You want to work for us, you got to send us a resume. I don't care if your resume is 3 lines on an Excel sheet that says my name is this and I've never worked landscaping in my life. The fact that you sent us something is what means something. So I don't care what the resume says as much as actually getting it. And that, again, screens out a ton of people because they won't send us the resume. They don't know where the resume is or how to produce it. So those are just kind of areas. Then we have psychographic level questions that we're asking, and we get far more answers than the answers to the questions from that. And that's the next level. So we're asking, how do you handle problems? How do you define success in your own words? And, just certain questions like that we can learn a whole lot more about the way the people's mind works. We hire for attitude, not for experience. That is the most powerful thing you can do. If you have the right systems in place, the right processes for training in place, you're almost better off with somebody that doesn't have experience. And there are great people out there with experience, so I'm not taking away from that. But there are also mediocre and really bad people out there that think they know a lot more than they do. And we found that hiring with that attitude, hiring the attitude instead of the skill set, brings in the right people. And then what we do immediately for onboarding, the first day you're there, it's an 8-hour training day. You don't go in the field the first day you work with us. We hire groups of people at the same time, and we go through 8 hours of training. The first hour of that training is sitting in a powwow circle, getting to know each other. And I always go first and open up in my alcohol struggles and going to rehab and all, like, get real with them right away. And people are just it just creates a sense of vulnerability and humility throughout the rest of the people that are there. And we all go around in a circle and talk about that. Then we go inside and talk about safety and go over what we really do and what all the pieces are. And then the next step is going outside, learning how to operate equipment, learning how to do certain aspects and everything. And sorry, I got a 3-year-old pushing a screaming goat at my feet right now. If you heard that goat, I apologize. And then the next step to that is going through small motors and string trimmers, leaf blowers, mowers, differences in the carburetors in them, how to change the air filters, how to change pull strings, the stuff that most owners call, I can't believe this crew, they just broke another pull string, I got to drive out there again. No. We got all the tools and everything in there. And by the time you're at $18.25 an hour instead of $18 an hour, you're certified to do all that work because you passed the assessment for that part of the test that says you can do that type of work. And, that's how we have it set up. So again, proactive in everything, every single problem that's out there. And we don't have them all figured out, and I never will. I know that. But as they come up, more stuff goes on the trailers, less stuff goes on the trailers, mower sizes change, hardscape equipment changes, all the pieces, we change it to make sure we're proactive as soon as we have that deficiency. And all of that collectively, I'm answering that and saying that stuff with the hiring question because that creates a destination company and a culture of attraction. People see that, they go talk to their friends about that, and they're like, whoa, that's so organized and detailed. I'm like, well, I don't think it's that organized and detailed, but as long as you do, that's good. Just wait. If you think we're organized now, just wait till where we are in 5 years.
That's great. I like how you have a structure to your all the way from like when you're sourcing candidates till when they step foot in their first day, right? So I think having a structure, the leadership structure that you spoke about, and them seeing up front like what their earning potential is something that gets them excited. And it's like, okay, well, I can see it here, something that I can reach, and probably that's what attracts a lot of people to your company as well, is being able to grow with your company. And another thing that you mentioned was the psychological test that you have. Is it a certain software that you use or anything like that to send that out?
So I personally, I'm a reader, I'm a studier. I like learning everything about everything. And I have spent years studying psychology and studying the human mind, the way it works, the way our neural pathways work, the way our behaviors change and our subconscious mind can change and everything. So I have taken templates of things I've seen on other assessments and kind of massage them into something that works for us, and those are ever evolving too. When we just had something about a month ago. We had a racial incident with a new employee. He made some racial comments to a person of a different race, um, and he slipped through the cracks because that's stuff that we actually look for in the interviews. And we went back, and that whole situation played out really well. Within 10 minutes of the comments being made, our crew leader had called our operations manager. Within 15 minutes, I got the phone call from our operations manager of, hey, what are we doing here? And I said, well, you already know what we're doing. He said, okay, cool. Well, I'm going to take this person along. We had a VP of operations go along with our operations manager as the witness, extracted the guy from the site, terminated him, and sent him home. Within 1 hour of him making those comments, the guy was terminated and away from our facility, because that's how fast we work. So anyway, with that put in place, we went back through to look at his interview, look at the way he answered the questions, looking at things that we might have missed for that, because that was a huge miss. We don't want to see stuff like that happen. Unfortunately, it's going to, but that means we need to take corrective action in the future. So we're going to be adjusting some of that stuff.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's a good point. And what are some of the main things that you want to see when they're taking the test? Are you kind of measuring personality, like if they have good work ethic, they have good written and communication skills? Like, what are kind of your metrics on that?
So yeah, we're looking for communication. Honesty is a big one. Honesty leads to, you can't really tell integrity from somebody in one conversation. That takes a little bit more time, but the honesty is usually a really good indicator of integrity. We will ask questions that we already know the answers to from the resume and see how accurately they compare to each other. Are they completely different? Are they subtly different? Or are they exactly the same? And so a lot of those pieces kind of coming together just really tell what we're looking for. But we're 100% looking for the attitude in that's ultimately what it is. And we're measuring problem solving skills. Is this person going to make decisions, or are they going to be making phone calls? And we want people that are making phone calls. And usually hiring in at the entry level positions, we're looking for a mixture of somebody that can make a decision, but it's probably not going to be confident enough in the decision, because we can coach that person to the confidence that they need. And that's the way our culture works, is to build that confidence by building those people up. So those are kind of some of the levels that we're looking for on those questions.
No, that makes sense. No, that's great.
Yeah, and if anyone has questions, please ask down in the chat. I know we had a few. How large is your company? I know, Scott, you had mentioned, that you've grown to about the 3 million in revenue mark, right?
Yeah, we will be coming in right around 3 million for 2023. Our financial plan in the 5 years, 20 million in the next 5 years.
That's great. And you're working on another location too, right? Soon?
Yep. Yes, we are. We're between 2 different markets right now. We're going to be dialing in on that over the next couple months where we're going. We're weighted about 75% towards one of them. So, and we have clients already that can get us into that area. So we have a couple mega sites that we can pick up from existing clients that we have, making the transition pretty seamless there. And again, we could go into layers and layers of this, but capital has never been an issue for us because of the way we have our contracts structured. And we're signing a lot of 5-year contracts. And for snow and ice management is our big driver. We have transitioned from a landscape company sponsored by snow in the winter to a snow and ice management company sponsored by landscape in the summer. And we're signing 5-year contracts. You pay us whether it snows or not. And not the true seasonal like everybody's used to in our industry. We have some very proprietary, innovative ways that we're doing tiered seasonals, or seasonals with forgiveness if we don't get enough snow. And if we get a ton of snow, if you get called back and we have to relocate or anything, we bill extra for that. That's not included with the seasonals. And But what that does is that gives us a cash flow projection that we can go to the manufacturers. We're getting ready to order probably in the neighborhood of 8 to 10 wheel loaders and about 12 more skid loaders for this next winter. And we have signed contracts that show the cash coming in that we can pay for every single one of those assets. And that's going to be a several $1,000,000 purchase that we're making, but we have proof of the cash flow, not only projection. This is not a projection. These are signed contracts. This is the cash flow that we're going to have for the next 5 years to commit to this. And that eliminates all the capital. You know, people laugh at you, oh, you're a $3 million company and you want to buy $4 million worth of equipment. And it's like, yeah, here's why, here's how we're going to pay for it. And it's okay. Yep. No problem. And that's literally what our funding has looked like for the past several years.
Awesome. No, great. And, I know you had touched on, cash flow is an issue with many businesses. With your shift from, I guess, having it depend too much on maybe the seasonality versus now you've implemented more contracts.
Yeah.
And when you're approaching some of the potential clients with some of those ideas and some of the rates, are you seeing that some of your competitors are doing a similar structure, or and how does the potential client typically weigh that against their the way that they're structuring it?
So the way we like to look at it is we want to give something that is so far off the RFP and so nuts that the person can't not buy it. That's our approach when we're putting stuff out, because a lot of the RFPs you get specifically from commercial, I want to, I guess you wouldn't be getting an RFP for residential, but I'm talking about the commercial world here. A lot of the RFPs we get are garbage, absolutely garbage. I mean, I've gotten RFPs in Pennsylvania that are saying we need to mow the grass 40 times and go back to the manager and say, well, that's fine. If you want me to cut it 40 times, we can have people out here servicing the site 40 times, but we're going to be mowing snow at the beginning and the end of the year if we're truly doing 40 cuts. And, oh, it says 40 in there. It's like, yeah, this was written in California, So we always go through, and the RFP is a guideline rather than exactly what it is. And then we put our personal flair on it. We're really good at what we do, and the clients are not good at all at what we do. Otherwise they'd be doing it themselves. So we want to educate. We take that time to educate and say, hey, here's what your RFP says. Are you sure that's what you mean? And are you sure this? You don't want leaf cleanup, but you want fall cleanup, or you don't want a fall cleanup, but you want leaf cleanup. What does that mean? Let's dissect that. And here's how we present it. And then we have a graph that we create that has our line items, because again, we're standardized. Every proposal we send out is exactly the same, no matter what that RFP says. And then we convert it over to the RFP and say, okay, so your area that you're calling this is covered under this line item. Your area covering this is covered under this line item. And it's a translator. So we're still standardized, and it gets everything in the format that our teams are used to looking at, our salespeople are used to selling, and it explains it to the client the way they need to see it. So that's one of the big things. Going to the competitors, I look at our area, and this is not an egotistical comment at all. I don't see us having competition. We have worthy opponents. And I mean, we're in a market. East Coast Facilities office is 5 miles down the road. And EMI is another really good company in our area that's direct competition. I'm really good friends with the owner of EMI. I'm really good friends with Josh Gomez. And, just putting all those pieces together, we help each other. And yeah, we're going to go toe to toe, and we're going to go head to head bidding against each other. That's absolutely going to happen. But we're going to walk away as friends at the end of the day, because EMI is going to win one, we're going to win one, and East Coast Facilities is going to win one. And it doesn't really matter. We're all going to help. But what does matter is, in the middle of that snowstorm, when you have 3 pieces of equipment break down for whatever reason, there's one phone call to make, and you can have them come from another site that's half a mile down the road that's somebody else's. So we're really friends. We don't view it as competition in a negative way. We view it as worthy opponents in a really good way in our market.
That's great. No, that's a really neat approach. And last question here for you, from me at least. I know earlier in the conversation you had mentioned that you started off doing a lot of design build work.
Yeah.
And then you made the switch more to the facility maintenance. And I know that there's a lot of, and there's, we work with very profitable companies in either, right? But I guess what was the reasoning and why you kind of made that shift?
Scalability. My personal heart and my passion is still design build. I love it. I'm good at it. I came to a realization that I'm not doing any of it anymore. I'm not drawing designs. I'm not out there building anything. So what does it matter what I'm good at? I need to be good at running the business. And what is not easy is training people to be really good hardscapers and to be really good artistic boulder installers. So the growth curve slowed down a lot for us, trying to have 3 to 4 build crews going, and quality issues started coming up in the day-to-day that we found us having to go out and fix. We won't let low quality stick on one of our job sites. So we make a mistake, we're going to go out and fix it. But that costs a lot of money when that happens. So we decided that the facility maintenance, again, going back to that 8-hour training, we cover a lot of the basics of what you need to know. You can go out and run a string trimmer, a mower, do a fall cleanup, do a spring cleanup, do mulching after that first day of training. You can't get that detailed because of the practice that it takes for doing hardscaping specifically. Cutting pavers and running a chop saw, I mean, that is an art. It is a true form of art that takes a lot of practice to be good at. So we do about $1 million, 1 to 1.2 million in build work right now, and the rest is facilities and snow. But it's a really good crew that we bring in a couple of people, and the good guys train those people. So it's just a whole lot slower of a scale, and that's going to grow organically. And we don't really have anything's possible, but we don't have anticipations of having build crews at our additional locations. We're going to keep them at the mother location. And then from here on out, as we're scaling out and really opening multiple locations, it's all going to be facility management and snow and ice management.
Very nice. And before we get going here, I know you do a lot of great things for the industry. We've seen peak peer groups and have heard great things as well. So if you can just please let the group know about, some of that stuff that you do.
Absolutely. So again, the mission statement for Castle Rocks came out of my head, and that is also my mission. I want to help anybody get better at what they're doing, and I want to help our industry get better. So about 2 years ago, I realized that to have further reach on that, doing great work within the company at Castle Rocks, but to have further reach, I wanted to start helping other companies. I have a different outlook on business than a lot of people do, and I have a true comprehension of what it takes to run $100 million company, even though we're still at a $3 million company. And I want to help other people get to the next level and figure this stuff out. So I started a company called InspireYou at that point in time, which is a coaching and consulting company. We focus on you first as the business owner, as the managers, because the harsh reality is anything going wrong in your business is a direct reflection of you. And not calling you out on that, but calling you out on that at the same time. If you're having issues, look in the mirror and figure out what's going on with you first, and then start teaching the other people. So we start with the owners. We focus on mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, and financial health. And then we carry over into building that into systems and processes and transferring that into the rest of the team, because leadership is really coaching. You're in the process of becoming a leader when you're learning how to live differently. You are a true leader when you're teaching other people how to live differently and live the way you live, and open enough to say they're doing a better job than you are in certain areas, and you want to learn from them as well. That's what true leadership is. So started doing that with InspireYou, and then linked up with a guy named Thane Isaacs, who has a company, Innovations from the Woods. He's another coach and does a lot of leadership, and he and I just really clicked when we first met. And he and I started doing it's a DBA as of right now, but we have peak peer groups. We run executive retreats every spring and fall at a beach house in Ocean Isle Beach, North Carolina, focusing really intensive 4 days on personal growth, organizational growth, and just hanging out and truly transforming each other's lives, looking at growth mindset of things and abundance, and seeing how much opportunity is truly out there, and understanding that we'll never have a comprehension of even a fraction of what's out there. So let's get after as much as we can, because there's a lot there. And then we also do Coffee on the Peak every Friday morning live on LinkedIn at 8 a.m. I even said it with the voice I say it on Coffee on the Peak. And what we do there is bring in guests. We had Carla on a couple weeks ago, but we bring in guests to talk about the industry, talk about what they're doing and how they're growing. And it's just anything we can do to give back, and just the tip of the iceberg. We're just getting started. So there's a lot more to come.
Very cool. No, that's all exciting stuff. And I guess, how can someone, reach out to you if they had, questions or, anything to that?
LinkedIn's a great place. Scott, SCOTT, Lesak, LESAK. Shoot me a message, connect with me, follow me. I post a whole lot sometimes, and then I'll go weeks in the silent and then post a lot again. So I'm hit or miss with that, but depends how busy I am. And if you're not on LinkedIn, I don't do anything on Facebook. I know that's the platform we're on right now, but feel free to email me, Scott, SCOTT, at myinspireyou.com. And if you're stuck in a rut, don't know how to get to the next level in business, stuck in a rut with an addiction or some major life problem, suicidal, any of that type of stuff, reach out to me. Let me be the person you talk to. I'm happy to sit here and help you. I've been through a whole lot, and everything I coach, everything I explain comes from experience, not from just reading books, not from just thinking this is the way it goes. Anything that I pass to other people, I make the promise that I've been through it, I've lived through it, I have implemented it myself. Because we really don't understand it if we don't have that personal experience with it.
It's true. It's true. Well, we definitely enjoyed having you on, and we covered so much ground today from like the business, marketing, advertising, and all that good stuff. So no, it was a blast. Thank you again for coming on today.
Yeah,
My
thank you very
pleasure.
much, Scott.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. It was a very fun conversation. I appreciate it.